Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders just resigned. It was a surprise. And he's a black man in Toronto, Canada, we're talking about, all over the world. So those of you who think this is just happening here, the reason why you're seeing London and Germany and Switzerland and France is because there's a race problem, because it's systemic everywhere in the world, because colonization and chattel slavery and all that needed a power system to, you can't put people in bondage without having a good story, without having a good marketing campaign. And racism is the best marketing campaign this world has ever seen. And it's dastardly and evil. And people are now saying globally, no more. So Toronto Police Chief, and again, it doesn't matter what color you are. You can still be an agent of racism. And that's why the police, those 2 police officers who were black in Atlanta, the police officers that gave Freddie Gray a rough ride in Baltimore, most of them were black. Of course, it's easy to look at Chauvin with his horrible self, but 2 of those officers were not black. 2 of the 4 officers that helped to take George Floyd's life were not black. It is a system that we're talking about. We're not talking about individuals. So if you're listening, you're like, well, I don't really, look at people that way, and I'm not. You may benefit from the system, or you are part of an agent if you are in an office place and you're denying people rights, and it's inherent. It's baked in. I'm watching a Bruce Lee documentary on ESPN this weekend, and even in this documentary, it was talking about anti-Asian racism, but they were juxtaposing it to the black uprising in the 60s with Martin Luther King and the marches, and saying, see, the Asians, they just are docile. They're just working hard, and they're just, not causing all of these problems like those Negroes. And they were pitting us together. And to this day, this is why we find, Latinx folk who don't like black people and who have these feelings, and Asians who have these feelings about blacks, because it's baked in, it's exported, it's part of the soil, and it's insidious. And now's the time to get rid of it. 866-801-8255. All right, Drew McCaskill's back. Hello, Drewski. Welcome back. Did you call in? Because I can't hear you. Or are you muted?
Here.
Okay, there you go. There you go. I can hear you now. Hey, Drew.
Hey.
Yeah, man. I'm watching, all over the world. This Toronto police chief just resigned. He stepped down from his post, and this is his final days, July 31st. He told reporters, his name is Mark Saunders. He said he decided to leave to become a full-time dad, but it was a growing pressure. They're having protests, anti-black protests in Toronto, and he was a target. He was being criticized after a black woman, her name was Regis Korchinski Paquette. She died after police were called to her home last month. And, it's under investigation. But again, people are throwing this yoke off. And we just talked with Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, about defunding the police and what that looks like. So I'm going to play a clip really quickly, and I want to talk to you about it. John, what's his name? I keep getting his name wrong. The guy that's on, hold on one sec. John Oliver, thank you. John Oliver has a wonderful show on HBO. And in 37 seconds, he breaks down defunding the police. So we're going to tweet this out. So if anybody wants to talk to you about, they're trying to get rid of the police and they're going to blah, 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 play this John Oliver clip for the people, the ignorant people in your circle. Let's play clip 7.
Defunding the police absolutely does not mean that we eliminate all cops and just succumb to the purge. Instead, it's about moving away from a narrow conception of public safety that relies on policing and punishment, and investing in a community's actual safety net, things like stable housing, mental health services, and community organisations. The concept is that the role of the police can then significantly shrink because they are not responding to the homeless, or to mental health calls, or arresting children in schools, or really any other situation where the best solution is not someone showing up with a gun.
Thank you. Real simple. 866-801-8255. We've often talked about, and Michelle Alexander writes in her piece today in the New York Times, that the police, the police as a system is functioning exactly the way it was designed. It's doing it's not broken, she said. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. So it's incumbent upon us to now determine what is the role. Do we want the police to go and accost the homeless? If there's a domestic violence situation, are people with guns the best people to show up? If it's, do you know what I'm saying? In school, do we want children to be policed by folks with guns and a license to kill? Like, is that the best use? And is it the best use of police to put them in the situation where they're around young people, children? I forgot the university that was the first to say, in Minnesota, they cannot come on our campus anymore. And then the whole city was like, not in our schools. And I think, one by one, we're going to have to start to re-examine what is the role of policing. Listen, if somebody robs me, breaks in my house, breaks in my car, I need the cops to show up. If somebody's trying to harm me, take my life, yes, that's a good time to call the cops.
A real good time.
Right.
However, though, you should not have situations in the public school system where you have more cops on high school and middle school campuses than you have nurses, than you have librarians, then you have school counselors. There are more police in public schools in this country than there are counselors. And I'm talking about, that is saying that, what does that say about a society where we feel like that we need to have more police in schools than healthcare providers and then mental health care providers, right? And we got to figure out, defunding the police also opens the door to a demilitarization of the police, right? The police in the UK don't even carry guns. Now, mind you, they don't have the Second Amendment, but you got to think about countries all over this world keep the peace and protect the people without full-on SWAT gear, right? And
tanks and riot and military. So the question is, you raise a point. In Great Britain, the police don't carry guns, and guess what? Guess what? People don't die.
Crime is lower.
Crime, not only crime is lower, but folks aren't being killed by police. People aren't being shot up because so we have a gun issue with a militarization issue with putting people, human beings, in the position of authority. And here's the other thing. Let me just, and I'm sorry if I'm offensive. Not really, because these are uncomfortable conversations that we have to have. If a person pulls me over and they don't have the access, wealth, or intellect, baked in, you're setting up a situation where do you get that car? Because that's happened. Is this your car? What the hell kind of question? This is a traffic stop. Give me my damn ticket. I don't need you to run through your insecurities and your failings as a human being and bring those into this situation right now, because now I'm going to have a hostile response. I shouldn't, because I want to live, but I'm like, why are you asking me that?
But I'm human.
Right. So we're doing a couple of things, putting people in these situations where they get to be judge, jury, and executioner over people that they may feel don't deserve to have the things that they have. You know what I'm saying? Let's take the racism off the table. There's just that dynamic. Like I get to arrest you. I get to do whatever I want to you.
I get to have agency over your body, your freedom, your property. I can see you with something, don't like the fact that you have it. And if I'm not mentally well, or if I'm just a bad person, right, I can now control you in some way, shape, or form. You got to take in consideration of where policing happens, where it comes from. It's born out of chasing down other humans and taking them back into captivity, right? And so you got to think about what kind of fruit grows from that kind of root. And you got to think about the fact that I keep going back to the fact, though, Karen, that and the way we have allowed policing to not evolve, right? That we haven't added more controls in elevating the role of police and who gets to be a police officer, right? If these are supposed to be our city's finest, then we need to start to elevate the process of who gets to wear a badge and figure that out and figure that out in a way that is meaningful, that is powerful, that is completely different from what we have going on right now. And that's what a lot of the defund police is looking at, is that how do we look at having maybe what we need is lower quantity and higher quality, because we're going to have crime. This is America. We are going to have crime, and we're going to need police. But what we don't need is 1.7 million students in schools with cops and no counselors.
I agree.
Stat for you. 3 million students in public schools with cops but no nurses, right? 6 million students in schools with cops but no psychologists. 10 million students in schools with cops but no social workers. That's from the Department of Education. Think about that. Think about how we are policing schools, and you can't think about that without also thinking about how Black children are overpunished and overpoliced and never given the benefit of the doubt, and that path from detention and being held down and pressed down and behavior control. Every one of our scholars says that is part of that path to the prison industrial system.
Absolutely. And if you're getting it in your school, in your neighborhood, what can we expect? And then you're going to hold that child accountable for why they're not doing better. Like, yeah, this is simple common sense.